So round 3 will be a regular planet, I mean Earth-like planet. Although it's gonna be pretty much Arctic. Oh, did the game just crash? No, okay. Game had some issues loading in the planet. And there's this teeny sliver of non-Arctic land in the middle of the map. We are now waiting for our players to spawn in, and we'll just see what happens with that. Now, spawn location-wise, there's a lot of water. Naval play is definitely going to be an option here, because as you can see, this body of water goes around the entire planet, and short of this little lake here and this lake here, there's quite a number of metal spots in those particular oceans, so you definitely want control of those. There's also quite a bit of land around the North Pole and in the middle bit here, and it looks like most of the land, if not all of the land, is connected to each other. It looks like that is actually the case, yes. So land play is definitely viable. I think we will see a lot of air, because air can attack both naval and land, obviously. But yeah, we'll just have to see what happens. It's a pretty large planet by the look of things as well, so nukes is definitely something we might see as well. But yeah, now it's just a matter of being patient and waiting for these players to get their spawn locations fixed. And we have started. So we have Team Quad, which is Pippy and Giggle, because they are using the Quad Commanders, versus Marshall and Superhuman, who are using the Delta Commanders. So one will be spawning in the ocean, the other one will be spawning on land. And we have the same team going on for Team Giggle and Pippy, or Team Yellow as we could call them. First factory is going to be an air factory here in the ocean. First factory on land is probably going to be a bot factory by the look of things. Then for Team Pippy and Giggle, we have the naval factory first, and we have an air factory on land first. And it's going to be followed up by a bot factory. Firefly is coming out first, so we will see scouting intel. Naval factory is probably gonna focus mostly on claiming these metal spots before it does anything else. We will definitely see some naval play in this particular strait here, because, well, considering the placement of these bases, that's the choke point where the naval forces will meet. Is there so much height range? It looks like, yeah, there is quite a number of hills and valleys on this planet. And we also have hummingbirds coming out. No aerial fabrics thus far. Marshall and Superman have now spotted this naval base that's being built. This will definitely be interesting information for their team, because, well, yeah, their base is in the same ocean. Did they spot this base as well? No, they don't know about the land base just yet. Pippy and Giggle have no scouting intel about any of the bases thus far, but it's only a matter of time before the scouts comes across them. We still have hummingbirds coming out. We do have fabrication bots coming out of the bot factory, so that will be the main production that's going on land. Looks like we have a hummingbird being escorted by a bomber that's going to try and take out these naval fabricators, as it just did. And that's definitely going to be laying the metal expansions that will be going on. We now have a normal moving position, so any further bomber play is probably not going to work as well as the first one did. Do they know about the second base? They don't, but they're about to scout it. So yeah, the hummingbird definitely got scouted, and part of this base, yeah, they're now turning around, trying to see if they can do any damage. Firefly got taken out, and so did the bomber. But they now know about this base as well. So that's all the intel that they currently need. And looks like both bases have been scouted by Pippy and Giggle as well, so they also know what's going on this particular map. More narwhals being produced. Narwhals are pretty useful for naval combat, because they can shoot both navy and air. Although they're not as good as the Orcas, which are the dedicated anti-naval and anti-land ships, they are still pretty decent all-rounders. I mean, they do decent damage, and any bomber harassment is just not gonna work against them because they can shoot air. Yet more hummingbirds being produced, probably to make sure that any bumblebee harassment will not have that much of an effect. Second naval factory now coming down for Superman and Marshall. More bumblebees being produced here, so we will see some more bumblebee attempted bomb runs. Economy wise, it currently looks pretty much the same. Metal wise, the same thing is going on for both teams. Energy wise, we have a slight advantage for Pippy and Giggle, although it's not that substantial at this point. But metal wise, it's quite funny that it's so equal. I mean, metal is being produced at about the same rate for both of these players. Well, both of these teams. It's actually 4 players. We have a Firefly, Hummingbird, and a Bumblebee sitting ready to try and do some more harassment, although it's probably going to be hard with the Narwhals now in play. First Orca has been produced for Superman and Marshall, and a second and third are now on the way. We also have the first Narwhal. Second Navy factory is now being tacked on here. Do they know about 3 naval factories? They don't. So as far as they know, there's only still 1 naval factory in play for Team Red. We have the first advanced factory coming down. It's going to be an advanced air factory. We don't have we have the first advanced bot factory coming down as well, which is going to be for Pippy and Giggle. So the timings on those are pretty similar. Not exactly the same, but they are similar. We have now 3 Orcas done, another Narwhal in production, and a 4th Orca in production. Another aerial factory is also ready. This one is probably gonna try and do some more harassment. Let's see what comes out. We have a Firefly. Fireflies are actually very useful in combination with Navy because most naval ships have a range that is longer than their actual sight range. So sending some intel with those, definitely a good choice. We don't have any Orcas out yet, and that's definitely going to be an issue because once those Orcas get into position and there's nothing to counter those, that's going to be pretty much a problem because Pippy and Giggle won't have too much that can deal with that. They don't even have an advanced air factory which could potentially produce bombers to counter that. Especially with Narwhal mixed in, that Narwhal is going to make any bomb runs pretty much impossible. This bomber is going to go down. It's probably going to spot quite a bit of this Navy headed the way of Pippy and Giggle. We have the first Orca now being produced, and I think these 2 are going to assist those factories because, well, obviously there's quite the fleet headed their way and they want to be countering that, yeah, as they should be doing. We see a slight metal advantage and a pretty substantial energy advantage at this point for Pippy and Giggle. Let's actually see the factory discrepancy. We have 10 factories for Superman and Marshall, and we have 8 factories for Pippy and Giggle. But again, the Faber advantage is definitely for Pippy and Giggle because they have about 12 Fabers extra. Both economies now being tanked, although the economy for Marshall and Superman is being tanked more than the economy for Pippy and Giggle. Pippy and Giggle are relatively stable at this point because they have the economic advantage on energy. First Orca is now moving out, but all the other Orcas are getting in position. This is definitely going to be a war that's going to be based mostly on the radar. And oh, these Orcas don't have a visual. They do have now, but it's going to be too late. It's not going to even take out this first Narwhal. Second Orca is probably going to go down without too much of a fight yet. Managed to take down the Narwhal, but that was about the extent. A now being sent in. Narwhal took a few shots but didn't take it out, and we have the advanced peregrines now also in play. We have 2 Orcas now out, but it's not going to be enough to counter the 3 that are still left to assault this base. Yeah, and the radar range is definitely better because they have these scouts moving around, which means that these Orcas can't actually fire even though they are in range. Yeah, they turn around, 2 shots have been unleashed. Okay, they took out another Narwhal. Then this Orca went down. This Orca is not firing, but these guys are, so it looks like the naval belt is going to be won by Marshall and Superwoman. Advanced air now being rushed out, probably to try and get a response out to counter that naval harassment that is going on. And it looks like this factory is also about to go down. That's going to be the end of that factory. The factory just blew up. That's the final Orca that's coming out, and it got shot down with only 2 shots unleashed against the enemy fleet. Aerial harassment got taken out by Narwhal, but the Narwhal in turn got taken out. Additional narwhals are being produced, but that's not what you want against all these orcas. So are they going to switch? The commander is now pumping out an extra navy factory, and the production for his factory now switched to orcas as well. What he actually wants to do is actually make a radar, because the radar is going to be vital in supplying that intel for those ships. As soon as they come out, they can actually fire. Because right now, if they come out, they still can't fire. Something Pippy and Giggle should be working on. We have peregrines coming out of this advanced air factory. Thus far, no kestrels. Still no kestrels, still peregrine production only. We also have a number of gillies on the field. Those gillies could potentially be useful if they get around to assaulting this land base, but it's going to be quite a while. As you can see, those gillies would have to move all the way over here before they can actually do anything useful. Those orcas still assaulting this naval base. One looks like about to go down. Yeah, one orca did one down. One is very close to that. It looks like we might see a second go down. Yeah, the second is definitely go down. And then we only have two left, one left, and this is the end of the naval assault that was going on. So now larger navy ships should be produced, and an advanced naval factory is being pumped out. So we will see Leviathans and we will see Stingrays not too long from now. We also have a peregrine and a kestrel trying to make something happen here, assaulting the metal positions for Pippy and Giggle, trying to take out the advantage they have eco-wise. And it's definitely cutting into that somewhat, but not to the degree that they probably want to have happen, because there's no economic stalling going on so far. Two shots were unleashed on these peregrines, but they're still very much alive. We also have the pretty much the advanced naval factory, not the advanced, but advanced because it's an advanced base out there, or the forward operating base, as the Americans would like to say. Look at this particular navy wreckage field. No advanced navy factory has been produced thus far, so something they might want to look into, because as soon as those first Leviathans start popping out, as they are being produced right now, that's definitely going to be a game changer for these naval bases. It doesn't look like we have too many advanced... doesn't look like we have any advanced energy generating, well, power generating stations for the Pippy and Giggle team. Does Marshall have any? No, Marshall and Superman don't have any advanced power either. They do have some storage, but they don't have any advanced energy generating capacity, which is probably what makes this Leviathan be constructed so slowly, even though it's being assisted by everything that they have around this area. All the orcas are now moving out. Probably gonna try and make something happen. Do we have the advanced naval factory being queued up? We don't. We have more regular naval factories being produced. We also have a number of kestrels here. Those kestrels could actually be very useful, because AA-wise there's not too much around here. If they were to swoop through, I think they could take out most of this base without too much of an issue, especially if they are escorted by peregrines. Looks like, yeah, the peregrines just cleaned up this place of AA, and now the kestrel's gonna go down on these metal spots, taking them out without too much of an issue, and just moving on. And they're even going to take out Fabras as well. Although the naval base that is here is probably the biggest threat that they currently are facing. Orcas are now moving in, exchanging shots with the enemy orcas, but the advantage is definitely for the Pippy and Giggle team, and they will be moving through, no doubt. Yeah. So first orca here goes down, second orca now taking quite a number of shots. One for Pippy and Giggle does go down still. That's the third orca down and the final orca down for Superman and Marshall. So Team Yellow definitely moving in this trade. We do still have the Hummingbird here, and the Hummingbird is useful for supplying that scouting intel that the Leviathan can use for its firing solutions. We don't have any advanced navy going down. We do have an advanced bot factory going down. Sniper bots that are being built there are probably going to be useful against taking out any land installations that are in the area. Marshall is saying he's starting to lag, but it's not too bad at the moment. Curiously, I'm not having too much of an issue with lag myself. And we don't have too many, well, we have a number of units on the field, but not too much just yet. Okay. That's a number of peregrines and hummingbirds moving through. More orca shots being exchanged here. And it looks like the advantage in orca numbers is now going to the enemy team for Pippy and Giggle. So Marshouman and Superman definitely holding the line here, and now the Leviathan can get its firing solutions in. So that Leviathan definitely going to be a threat. But these Kestrels could actually easily take it out if they swung by. Leviathan has now been scouted. I have no doubt the Kestrels will turn around. Yeah, the Kestrels are moving around. This guy is going to be an issue though, because the AA fire that is on this big ass and mofo of a Stingray is definitely going to be an issue. Leviathan did go down though, but the Stingray is still in play and is now trying to assault land installations. I don't know why the Stingray was firing its own Leviathan. That's kind of a curious choice. And it looks like the production has switched completely Stingrays to maintain that air superiority. Still no advanced naval factory being produced for Pippy and Giggle. Do we have any nukes anywhere? None so far. Nope, no nukes whatsoever on this map. Although it's gonna be curious when we actually do see them appear. More peregrines being produced. Here we have a few guys moving in here. Also peregrines, but they got taken out by the stingers, so not too much of an issue. We have a number of Faberbots moving out, and it looks like this Faberbot is being chased by a number of vehicle Fabers for VP and Marshall. Kestrel now taking out some more metal plants on its own. It's probably gonna run into this peregrine at some point. Yeah, it just did, and it got taken out. Also a number of Gillies and Fabers around this area. I assume the vehicle Fabers are going to try and get some forward operating base up. Still, economy-wise, I'm not really liking the chances that Superman and Marshall have, because they're still struggling power-wise, and metal-wise they don't have too many metal spots. More Orcas now moving in, focusing fire on the enemy Orcas. Stingrays don't seem to have the intel that they like, because they aren't really firing at those Orcas. This base is now being assaulted by this Stingray though, and they seem to be, I don't know, that missile was passing out. And it finally did land on the air factory, but there's still another one that's passing. I don't know. Something about these missiles. Ooh, the commander is now being shot at by those Stingrays. Stinger missiles. Oh no, catapult missiles. It's catapult missiles. Definitely catapult missiles. These guys are now receiving intel so it can actually fire. These Orcas are trying to outsmart the enemy by sneaking past and assaulting these naval installations that way. Oh, did we just see a commander go boom? This commander is definitely under heavy attack, but it did not blow up. No, commander is still there. I don't see a commander along this area, although I don't see a base that's been blown up either. So it's definitely not been a nuke, so I assume a commander died. But considering yellow still has both its commanders, although one is under heavy attack and is having to be repaired and is pulling out here. Yeah, they are now trying to assault the Fabers that are repairing commander, but that's gonna take ages because catapults can only hit single targets, they don't do any splash damage. But it definitely looks like a commander went boom around here. Maybe near here, because there used to be a factory here looking at the ground, or around this area, because a lot of metal spots went boom. We also have an army of levelers moving in here, and those levelers could potentially do quite a bit of damage. There's not anything to combat land force, but you have a single laser turret which just got taken out, and that was the only defense along this area. These guys are still going to town though. Definitely going for that aerial factory, although it's constantly being repaired by these guys. But eventually that advanced air factory might go down if enough fire is launched at the same time. Constructing a bolter might also be useful for taking down these guys, although that doesn't seem to be happening anytime soon. And would you look at this strait here, it's completely filled with the wrecks of Orcas trying to shoot each other, and you still have that Leviathan right here as well. What is moving in here? Oh, it's just Fireflies to get a better firing solution on this base. But they got taken out instantly by the peregrines that were already in position. We also have two Kestrels, now a turret is joining it. I assume they are going to try and take out this bombardment that's going on. Although, no, they don't seem to be doing that. They seem to be going straight for the base here. Which, if they could snipe the commander, that would be it. The levelers are now arriving in this base. And they are doing substantial damage, going completely uncontested, taking out all the power, taking out all the metal. We have Peregrine moving about the place, but Peregrine is completely and utterly useless. We also have some Gillies mixed in. Yeah, it looks like we have about 5 Gillies mixed into this, and those are also adding to the fire that's already going on. Now a number of Kestrels are also arriving in combination with those Peregrines, and that's definitely the end of this base. This orbital didn't manage to do much of anything. In fact, it didn't even produce a single unit that is in orbit at this point in the game. So that orbital didn't really pay for itself at all and got taken out before it could put a single unit into orbit. We also now have the metal deposits going down and the rest of the metal going down. And as a result, there's not a single Faber that's left except for maybe, yeah, we have a single Tech 1 Faber that's left here and a single one that's running around this area. But the land base is pretty much out of it for WP Marshall and Superman. So they didn't even get the naval advantage to push through here. And the advanced naval factory did finally go down for Pippy and Giggle. But yeah, the Orcas alone managed to hold on here, and that was enough to prevent anything from going down here. These guys are still continuing to bombard this base here, but it's not the biggest issue. The commander has now pulled back to here. There's some advanced power here. Commander is being repaired and it's completely out of range for any of these missiles to actually hit it in the face. We have a lot of Kestrels moving in. Can they make it happen? Yeah, they can make it happen. They took them out. Most of the Kestrels died, but there were just enough that they managed to take out those bosses that were firing at the base. The other Kestrels, except for one lucky guy, got taken out by the reinforcements that were headed around the area. We now have Leviathans being produced for Pippy and Giggle. At this point, yeah, the advantage is definitely Pippy and Giggle. If you look at the factories, you have 15 factories for Pippy and Giggle being assisted. Well, not all of them are being assisted, but mostly being assisted by 212 Fabers that are roaming around the map. And then you have 105 mobile units, which are anything that can basically shoot at the enemy. It looks like these levers are going to be shut down by the bombers because there's no AA mixed in. But that's not really a big issue because those levers did what they had to do. This entire base is gone, and that's entirely the point. Producing levers at this stage is probably not that useful anymore because there's nothing left on land for them to shoot at. Gillies might be more useful, but what you really want to do is switch production from levers to the Shellers. The Shellers are the artillery vehicles, and those are going to be very much useful for taking out this base. We have another Leviathan mixed in here who's also taking some pot shots at levelers who went down. Another advanced vehicle factory being advanced naval factory are being produced. But yeah, economy wise, there's no way they can actually compete with the economy that is now in play for Pippy and Giggle. Curiously, they're also producing an umbrella, which is funny because there's no orbital units for Pippy and Giggle, but they don't know that, so they are trying to play it safe. We have even more Kestrels moving in, being largely shot apart by these stingrays here. A number still survived. Wow, look at that overkill. That poor Orca was already dead and received 4 more missiles to the face. Now the Peregrines took out some more Hornets. They are now moving towards the base, which is largely undefended against air attacks. Kestrels taking out more metal still, now going on to work on the power. More metal going down here. We have this Stingray in range, which now shot down the air harassment, but if you look at this naval force that's already in play and that there's even more Leviathans coming out, Leviathans exchanging shots, but this one has the advantage because he has the power and the radar to actually see what's going on and can shoot around. That Orca took a lot of shots, but the Leviathan took none, so now the Leviathan can actually exploit the advantage that he's still alive and shoot this little navy that's headed his way to pieces. 2 more shots coming down on that Orca and it's completely vaporized. This naval factory is probably never going to finish. If you can see how slowly it's constructing, I don't believe this will ever see the light of day. We have a lot of Gillies now moving in. They can probably snipe pretty much anything along this coastline, although they are being shot at by both a Stingray and this particular Leviathan here. So another Gilly went down. It doesn't look like they have the vision to shoot anything. No. They're like sitting here, we're chilling out and we're being shot at, so Our brothers on the other side of the plant then get shot at as well. Another wave of Kestrels and Peregrines moving in. There is a Stingray in range to deal with this, but the Advanced Naval Factory took quite a bit of damage, and Peregrines are taking all the shots. Now, if they swing around, yeah, they are going to take out the Advanced Naval Factory. And all the shots are being eaten by the Peregrines here. So Advanced Naval down, the Orbital is now also under attack. It did produce a single Orbital Fabric, but that's probably not enough. Does the Orbital Fabric produce anything? Yeah, it's actually going for the slower rate to try and fix the energy deficit that it had, well, that Team Marshall and Superman had. And yet another wave of Kestrels moving in, probably gonna finish off this one. Yeah, they finished off the other Advanced Navy, so there's no more Advanced Navy coming out, even though the Stingray is still trying to defend the base. But the playfield is definitely shrinking for Superman and Marshall, whereas the rest of the entire planet is pretty much owned by Team Pippy and Giggle. Leviathan is now finally in range of the base and trying to unleash hell as much as it can. There's a single Orca moving its way, but considering the fact that it has quite a number of escorts, it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Aerial harassment could probably be a factor in this still. There's a number of Peregrines escorting it, but there don't seem to be too many of it. And yet more Peregrines and Kestrels coming in. Actually, it's only Kestrels, which got taken apart by the missile turrets and the Stingray. But that doesn't really matter because it gave vision for the Leviathan to image shots even better. Yep, that's yet another Orca down. We do have cruise missiles now headed towards this fleet, but it's targeting mainly the Orcas. A is now being taken apart by the Leviathan as well. And the Orcas are trying to move through the field of wrecks that have been left due to the intense fighting that was going on in the strait. Leviathan is now fighting the other Leviathan. The GG has gone down for Team Marshall and Superman, and they did destroy their own commander in an act of surrender. So that is the end of round 3. It looks like Pippy and Giggle will be proceeding to the semi-finals. Now all we have to do is actually wait for the losers brackets to determine who will go to the semi-finals for the loser brackets.